Adam Burke, absolute pleasure to see you again, this time on this side of the water. Have you had a good summer? I mean, you personally, but really, Los Angeles.
Yeah. Actually, it's been a phenomenal summer. I mean, I think, from when we talked last, what a difference a year makes. The international recovery has really been astonishing. In 2019, which was the high water mark for LA, we had Europe is our biggest market overall. We had 1.3 million visitors from Europe.
Okay.
And we're already anticipating that we'll be back to 1.1 million next year with full recovery by 24. And I think a lot of that is because of all the new nonstop service on top of the resumption of the normal flights. So we're to a point where we have 18,000 seats a week nonstop coming to LA right now.
One of the positive corollaries, I guess, if there are any, from the pandemic is I heard that hotel rates in urban areas in California were better value than in non-urban areas. So this is obviously to the benefit of a destination like LA.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, I think early in the pandemic, when people were concerned more about physical distancing, some of the rural areas actually saw record occupancies. And what we've seen is there's now really a return to the urban destinations. And what I think is great about it is it's allowed people to explore destinations they hadn't previously. So we have a lot of people who will still come to Los Angeles because they know the destination, but then they'll tack on days to some of those more rural communities. And I think it's exposed people to more of the U.S. as a result, which is brilliant.
The last time we spoke, and it is in the height of COVID, really, we spoke at IPW. And one of the things that you were, it was this time last year, Brand USA.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And one of the things that you were very keen on, LA was promoting sports tourism.
Yes.
A very busy calendar of sporting events. And I presume we're still very much in that flow.
Very much so. I mean, it's interesting, under the heading of I'd rather be lucky than smart. We now, with the addition of the Angel City Football Club, which in and of itself is a remarkable story. So the actor Natalie Portman basically reached out to a number of the stars from the U.S. women's national teams that have had so much success on the World Cup stage and said, we need to bring a national women's soccer team to L.A. And it's the perfect place for it because her whole business model is creating pay equity for women, not just in sport, but they're designed to be basically a platform to elevate pay equity for women in every industry. But with the addition of Angel City Football Club, we now have 11 professional sports teams in Los Angeles, which is the most in the country. So whatever sport you're fond of, whether it's proper football, we have 3 teams now between the Galaxy, LAFC, and Angel City Football Club. We have 2 National Football League teams. It's really a Hollywood ending, the fact that the Rams actually managed to win the first Super Bowl ever played in SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
So in addition to that, we're going to be hosting World Cup in 26, the Olympic and Paralympic Games in 28. There's just so many demand drivers and so many reasons why international visitors will be coming to Los Angeles.
Just to touch on Angel City, because it couldn't have happened at a better time. Women's soccer in the US has been a remarkably popular sport for many decades or several decades. And it's fair to say that Europe has been slow to catch up, but it has very much caught up. We've had the success of the England women's soccer team that won the Euros recently, and this explosion in women's football in Europe. So something like Angel City I would imagine resonates better with European visitors than it might have done, say, 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we're seeing the same thing in the States. I mean, Angel City Football Club in their first season has become the most popular franchise in the National Women's Soccer League. Their jersey outsells some of the men's teams.
Really?
And I think part of it is you not only have a lot of young women who grew up playing soccer, but it's also bringing new people to the sport.
Yeah.
And I think just a lot of it's a veritable who's who. You not only have people like, Abby Wambach and Mia Hamm and Julie Foudy, but then you also have stars like Jennifer Garner and Eva Longoria, who are lending their support to the team.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. So it's interesting because Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, they bought Wrexham in Wales. And so I wonder if there is a kind of an explosion of interest, or certainly they're spotting, let's say there's some interesting opportunities for people with means, people with a bit of equity, to invest in football.
Yeah, I think it's probably the single biggest growth sport. I mean, if you look at the popularity, particularly with World Cup coming in 26, I think that's why you see so much interest from, as you say, those of means. But what I really love about our community is, Angel City is a great example of they're using it to elevate the community. So, yes, certainly it will be a very successful franchise. But I love the fact that before they had recruited one player, before they hired one coach, they had reached out to the local community and said, we want this to be something that the community views as being a positive contributor. So it's really a community-based franchise.
I mean, is that something, and I've noticed this trend of not just Los Angeles, but throughout the United States, is DMOs and tourism organizations that are really kind of refocusing their attention on their own communities. I mean, it's experiential travel. It's a sense of, it's not just come and see X museum, Y site, Z attraction.
Yep.
Come and be involved, get to know people. And like if LA has, whatever it is, 46 towns and Surgery Center, LA is a city of communities.
It really is. I mean, and actually I'll answer it a couple different ways. The first thing is, that's really the easiest way to wrap your arms around LA. Because I think when some people look at Los Angeles, they think, how do I possibly decide where to go? And so, even on our website, we break it down into basically 6 regions, so it's easier to understand on a map. But then within that, you're right, there's so many neighborhoods. So what I really encourage people to do is we started curating 3-day itineraries.
Okay.
Across every, so whether it's you're looking at culinary, sports and entertainment, arts and culture, there are 3-day itineraries, and we're finding that people will go to a neighborhood for 3 days and then go to a different neighborhood for 3 days.
Really?
Uh-huh. And I think it's because it gives them the opportunity to really settle and explore. So, for example, you might go to the Arts District, and that 3-day itinerary will combine the 3 notable things there, which are all these great local restaurants, breweries, along with these gorgeous street murals that are really a hallmark of LA, and this really incredible architecture that's part of the Arts District. Then they'll say, I want to go 3 days and spend it in a beach community. And, I want to ride a bike along the Strand, ride along the Pacific Ocean. And so we're finding those 3-day stays, people over the course of a week will stay in a couple different neighborhoods. The other part of it, candidly, Fionn, is just, I think we have the privilege of representing our destination. That means we have to be good stewards of our community. And, I think over the course of the pandemic, we've forgotten that it wasn't that long ago that we were talking about over-tourism. Yeah. Which I guess some would refer to as the good old days. But, from my perspective, we have to make sure that what we do is beneficial to the community. The way we've been thinking about it is what's good for residents is always good for visitors, but the converse does not always hold true.
One of the communities that's being developed or is in the process of really emerging as a go-to place is Crenshaw, which I think for decades past would have been known for both its socioeconomic issues, but also as well as kind of the explosion of West Coast hip-hop. I mean, I only a couple of nights ago, I turned on the TV and Boys in the Hood, the John Singleton film from 91 maybe, which is set in Crenshaw. But a neighborhood that from, let's be frank, from a tourism perspective, wasn't as inviting then as it certainly is now. So what's changed?
It's gone through a remarkable renaissance. And you're right. I mean, the community is now called South Los Angeles.
So it's had a whole rebrand.
Yeah, and it really has gone through this remarkable renaissance where if you look at what there is to do. So first of all, you've got this really rich cultural heritage there. Things like Leimert Park, Watts Towers. But on top of it, if you look at the whole Exposition Park complex, so now that's where you have Bank of California Stadium, home to both Los Angeles Football Club and Angel City Football Club. You've got the California Science Center, the Natural History Museum, the LA Memorial Coliseum, which will be hosting the Olympics for the 3rd time. The Lucas Museum of Narrative Art will be opening in that same complex in 2025. And one of the projects that I'm most excited about, because I think it goes to what you're talking about, is called Destination Crenshaw. So Destination Crenshaw is going to be the largest public art installation in the country. It's 1.3 miles along Crenshaw Boulevard, so basically 2.6 miles of public art. Yeah. And they've lovingly curated it with some of the most amazing Black and African American artists, including the gentleman who did President Obama's official portrait.
Right.
So really, luminaries. But beyond that, Jason Foster, who is the president of Destination Crenshaw, I love the way he describes it. He wants to, in his words, gentrify South Los Angeles for the benefit of those who already live in South Los Angeles. Yeah. So he's viewing it not just as this incredible attraction for tourism, but also an economic engine for South Los Angeles, what you can do to create jobs, what you can do in conjunction with the educational community, what you can do with local merchants. So what we're seeing is so many people are seeking out South Los Angeles now because it has so many attractions, but you also have this rich cultural heritage there.
Good food?
Amazing food. I mean, virtually everything under the sun, but for a great example is if you've never had vegan soul food, there are a few restaurants there
vegan
that do
soul food.
And you would think, how do you do that?
Yeah,
Remarkably well. I mean,
I can see it.
Yeah. But I mean, just there's so many great restaurants and little boutiques, and and part of what I love about it is we have these major events, as you were talking about earlier. The LA Sports and Entertainment Commission has been using something called the Business Connect program, and what that does is it allows businesses from underserved communities to make sure that they're part of the supply chain for things like the Super Bowl, the World Cup, the Olympic Games. And I think that's one of those things as a community we have a responsibility to make sure that tourism is beneficial to everyone. We actually changed our mission statement over the last 2 years. So our mission statement simply is to improve the quality of life for all Angelenos through the economic and community benefits of tourism. So we start community first, and I think South LA is a great story in that regard.
And obviously you represent Los Angeles, you're the president and CEO of Discover LA, but you're in Europe as part of this Brand USA mission.
Yes.
So besides saying LA is great, LA is lots of new things, interesting things, so what's the overriding message that Brand USA is bringing to Europe?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is there's no question that we will not see full recovery in the tourism sector in the States without a robust recovery in Europe.
Yeah.
Europe is our largest market. And if you look at it, tourism was the U.S.'s largest service export pre-pandemic. There's no other way of saying it. In Los Angeles, for example, if you look at overnight guests, in 2019, we had 31 million overnight visitors.
Okay.
Out of those 31 million, 1 out of every 4 was from the international marketplace.
Yeah.
But what's more remarkable is even though they're about 25% of the visitation, they're about 2/3 of the spend.
Of the spend, yeah.
So from a practical standpoint, there is no recovery without Europe. What I'll also say though is what I love about the U.S. is it gives visitors from around the world the chance to explore so many different experiences. I'm not going to sit here and say just come to LA.
Sure.
I'm going to say come to Los Angeles, and when you're here, go to Santa Monica, go to Santa Barbara, go to Anaheim. Go to New York, go to all these wonderful destinations. And I think that's what's great about our community among destination marketing organizations. We recognize there's plenty of space for everybody. And we cannot wait to throw the doors wide open because it's essential for a community like Los Angeles, candidly. LA is just not the same community without this infusion of international visitation.
Adam Burke, as always, an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
No, so good to see you again, Fionn.
And you.
And I hope to see you in LA soon.
I can't wait.
Thank you.